Final Fantasy VII is an interesting game for me because if I'm being honest, I didn't really enjoy it the first time. But when I came back to it, I still didn't really enjoy it, but for different reasons. However, before I get into my reasonings, I want to state I'm an ordinary dude. I'm not a game journalist. As a matter of fact, this is my first ever game review, period. With that being said, let's get into the... Actually, hold on. I forgot to say that I won't get into spoilers until the story section, which comes up at the very end of the video. Now with that being said, let's get into the... I'm not ashamed to admit this, but in my first playthrough, I made it to chapter 6 or 7 on normal mode. However, at some point in between those chapters, I did swap down the difficulty to easy mode. Now, I don't remember exactly what made me change the difficulty to easy mode. Actually, hold on. Now that I think about it, it might have been these assholes that made me drop down the difficulty, because they were kicking the absolute shit out of me. And I mean, they were beating me so badly. I did eventually quit trying to beat them and left to continue the main story. Now I know what you're thinking. There's no way in hell they of all things got me to drop down the difficulty. Like, how bad can I really be at this game? And I don't blame y'all for asking that, because it was my fault for being so bad. You see, when starting the game, I didn't bother reading the combat or materia tutorials because I thought this game would be like every other action RPG game I've played. But I was dead wrong. Now let me explain. The combat in this game is a hybrid between action and turn-based combat. Now, other than Mario and Luigi's Bowser's Inside Story and Superstar Saga, I don't really have any experience with turn-based games. I'm more of an action RPG gamer, you know? Although, I have played Guardians of the Galaxy, which has a similar combat style with this game, you know, with the whole controlling your party and giving them commands. However, this game, Final Fantasy VII, goes far more in depth with those aspects. As a result, the combat can be quite complicated, especially when materia, also known as spells, is involved. You see, the game really wants you to utilize spells in order to exploit your enemy's weaknesses and deal massive amounts of damage, right? Damage that you can't normally dish out with basic attacks from your sword, gun, fist, or wand, right? Now, in the beginning, basic attacks did do a decent amount of damage, especially in the intro of the game, but as the game goes on, you end up collecting more and more materia. As a result, you end up doing less and less damage with basic attacks, which at first I wasn't a big fan of because I didn't really know how to well utilize my materia, and I didn't know who should get what and why. Nor did I know how to use my party's strengths to my advantage. As a result, I would just cast random spells on enemies, get really annoyed at the fact that I'm doing so little damage, and I would refuse to use any other character because they too did so little damage, if not less than Cloud, which contributed to my unenjoyment and disdain for this game in my first playthrough, which yet again is my own fault. I'm not knocking this game points because I was too lazy to read all the tutorials. So after coming back to this game for a second playthrough a few weeks later, or a few weeks ago, and taking the time to actually learn the combat and materia systems, I actually had a blast. Like, honestly, although to this day, I still don't really know how to play as Aerith. I know how to utilize her as like a NPC, but actually playing her, I'm lost. Like, I'm just lost. And also, I was actually finally able to complete this game on normal mode without having to turn down the difficulty. Actually, that's a lie. I did turn down the difficulty to easy mode on this fight. But I do want to say, even though I had a blast, I still have some minor gripes. Number one, the lack of blue materia to link to my green elemental materia is really annoying. I hate the fact that most of the materia I'm finding in the wild is ice and fire. Number two, the lock-on system, specifically as Barret in this fight, for whatever reason, it really sucks. It's genuinely hard to target what I actually want. And this is the one fight, the one instance where I actually did turn down the difficulty to easy mode on my second playthrough. Number three, these floating fucks are the bane of my existence. They tank damage like a motherfucker, even when you cast bio on them, they tank damage. Number four, flying enemies in general are horrible to fight, especially these flying floating fucks and these heli trooper cunts, because when you attack them, you don't stay glued on them in the air like you do in Spider-Man, for example. Instead, you go up, slash them twice, go down, chase them across the map, then go back up, slash them twice, and repeat. It's genuinely not fun. Genuinely not fun. And number five, this really isn't a gripe for this game, but more as in Rebirth. The upgrade system for your weapons, you see, like, I love that I can tailor my weapons to my specific playstyle, whether it be magic heavy or like physical damage heavy. Yeah. And I find it a real shame that the sequel like stripped all that out. So it's a shame that it's not back, but whatever. Now, before I end this section, since the combat and materia systems can be quite overwhelming for first timers, here are some quick tips from me. Number one, when you see slots like these, make sure you pair green and blue materia here in order to get their combined benefits. My favorite combos, the ones I use, are ice materia and elemental materia for Cloud, because those are very beneficial when you're fighting monsters. It applies the weakness and they drain health quickly. And fire materia and elemental materia for Tifa, specifically like humans, right? Those are best for humans. Number two, once you get the healing materia and the auto cure materia, immediately equip them both on any character but Cloud. And make sure both of those materia are on the same character. Also, you don't need to put them in like a linked slot to get the benefits. It's just like, no matter what slot you have them, you will get the benefit of like of the character casting auto cure on you or other party members that are low in health. Number three, make sure each party member has different materia equipped. Not just the same stuff all the way through, like I did my first playthrough. I just gave everyone fire and I gave everyone ice. Don't do that. Don't do that. You want to like give them a little versatility. This is a pretty linear game, so there's not much to really talk about other than some minor gripes I have. You see this? This is the map in the main menu. It straight up sucks. There's no detail, there's no nothing. It's genuinely annoying to use and to just look at overall. You know what else sucks? These fuck ass monkey bars. They're slow, unresponsive, and control like utter shit. Now you see these. These are still garbage, but are a little better. Not by much, but a little better. Number 4. Loads of crawl spaces. Now I understand why they're here. This is a PS4 game. They need them to run the actual game. So I'm not gonna get points at all, but it's just annoying. Number 5. Holding X for levers. Why the fuck do I have to do that? Like, this gets annoying at a certain point, but like, it's whatever. Number 6. You know what would be really nice? If I could jump over this locker. You see it? This locker right here. There's no reason why I can't just climb over it or jump over it. why do I like, in order to get to that side of the room, I have to backtrack throughout this entire section of the map, and spend like 5 minutes going around, or like, are we serious? There could even be that little blue icon that like auto does like a obstacle for you, like auto jumps like a railing or whatever. Like they couldn't even include that little section. Are we serious? Whatever. Oh, the level design. If I'm being honest, it can be a hit or miss. For example, the sewers is just the same copy and pasted rooms with no real in-depth puzzles. The entire section boils down to flick a switch here, lower the water, fight enemies, and repeat. In this final room, right? In this final little section, the devs couldn't even bother to do an actual puzzle to lower the water, like at all. Instead, it's the dumb like generator mini game you see in a billion games. But at the very least, this whole sewer section is pretty quick, pretty fast. So there's that, I guess. However, some other sections though are completely pointless and act more like filler sections. Now, for example, the robot arm section. Now, admittedly, this section isn't that long, but it's not fun either. And it's quite pointless if you really think about it, because the only reason why we're going through here is to avoid Wall Market. But the second we leave this section, we're tasked with going to Wall Market. Now, narratively, I understand why. We're going to Wall Market to save Tifa, whatever, right? But what was the narrative reason to skip Wall Market in general? There was none. We literally just took this detour for no reason. I don't know why I couldn't just walk down the road that I know exists there. That's much faster, you know? Another example is in, I believe it's chapter 5. When you go to section 5 for the first time, right? And you're leaving the church and you're passing the train station, you see a helicopter and a certain character comes out, and you decide, instead of going the direct path, I'm just gonna go take a detour to the main town. This detour is quite fucking pointless because both you and the person you see that you're trying to avoid are going to the same fucking place. You're both going to town. So what is the genuine point of me taking this long ass detour to town when I'm gonna see him there anyways? I can't just take the main road, right? And like side quests bring me back to this section of the map anyways, right? So they could have literally stripped this entire section out while still have it there and still have it be used in side quests, because it's used several times in side quests. So this section genuinely right here is just a waste of time. And my second playthrough, to me, was like, bro, let's get on with this, come on. Now, I don't want to be too negative, so I am gonna list some sections that I actually really enjoyed. The chapter 15, climbing all the way up to the entirety of chapter 15. That's great. Visually, it looks stunning, and I like how you're just climbing up. I mean, the level design is not really anything that special, but it's distinct enough from the rest of the game. I actually really enjoyed that part. And the intro sequence is really good. It's a great hook for the game that it really gets you accustomed to what you are going to be playing throughout the game. The levels actually feel unique. It's not the same copy and pasted rooms like in other sections. So yeah, intro's good. Oh, and Wall Market. Wall Market, everything about it is great, especially at nighttime. When it's Wall Market at nighttime, the colors are beautiful. The city or town, whatever, nicely designed. I like the arena. It's really fun to use to do all the challenges in the arena. All the levels, period, here, all the side quests here are actually pretty good. I liked, the whole Honeybee Inn stuff. I liked There's nothing not to like in Wall Market, so. Oh, the side quests. Look, I'm gonna keep this section short. They all suck. They all just suck. I can only name two that are actually good / memorable. The Burning Thighs quest in Wall Market, the Angel of the Slums quest in Chapter 14. Other than that, every other side quest is just the same Bethesda style bullshit of, oh, can you help me find my 5 blank? Oh, can you take out the monsters in this location? Oh, can you fetch me this item? And repeat. However, all these quests do have some decent rewards, so I would recommend doing them. Especially the Burning Thighs quest and the Angel of the Slums quest. Those two are like two of the best ones. There is another one with Johnny in Wall Market, but that one depends on like what option you choose when you're at the massage parlor. So that one's also a good one to explore. Now, we have officially arrived to the story section of this video. Before I continue, I will get into spoilers. So, if you care about spoilers, click off. If you don't, stick around, I guess. Our story begins on a speeding train as we follow an ex-soldier and a group of eco-terrorists on their way to destroy a Mako reactor. Now, I assume if you're watching this section, you know what a Mako reactor is. But if you don't, and this is your first time, and you don't care about spoilers, Mako is a precious resource which comes from the lifestream, which in turn comes from deep within the planet, right? Got it? Following? They use this resource to power the city, called Midgar. You got that? Good. Our merry band then arrives at a train station, takes out some dudes, and make their way into the reactor, where this character, Jesse, to plant the bomb. So we do, and immediately are ambushed by the first boss of the game, and make quick work of him and haul ass out of there. Because little do we know, Shinra, the company that is behind the reactor and the city as a whole, has set off explosions from within the reactor to make the destruction of the reactor far worse than what was intended, in order to turn the public against us. Now, as far as intros go, it's pretty good. This chapter has successfully hooked me in and convinced me to buy the game 2 months later, since this section was included in the demo and I didn't want to pay for the game full price, so I waited for it to go on sale 2 months later. Right? So now we make our way out of the reactor. It goes boom boom. Well, it goes boom boom while we're in there, but it goes real boom boom when we make it out. We all then separate and head off to the train station. On our way out of there, we have this trippy ass vision of this gorgeous man with silver hair. Then soon after that, we meet a flower girl who gives us, now get this, a flower. We're then surrounded by guards and a bunch of flying ghost seamen. We then make quick work of them, then meet up with our gang on the train. We then arrive to Sector 7 and head out to a local bar. On the way to the bar, I have this trippy vision and I get called a druggie for it. I then arrive to the bar, scare a little girl, get pressed, and then get taken to check out my motel room by my childhood friend, Tifa, who low-key
want me. She want me. She want me.
I go to bed, wake up, and attack my disabled neighbor. The next morning, I go back to the bar to get my paycheck, but these broke bitches don't got my money. So I gotta go get protection money with Tifa, essentially, just to get my money back. I go be dead ass. After that, I do some side jobs to build up my reputation. Then I headed back to the bar just to get kicked right back out. So I headed back to my hotel room where Fine Shit asked me to help her out with a job. So naturally, I agreed instantly and met her at the train station, where we were surprised by Owen from Total Drama Island and Charlie Sheen, both of which insist on tagging along, cock blocking me. We head off to my favorite section of the game, the bike sequence. You see, we can't use the train because it's closed, so we use bikes to ride up to the upper levels, though we trip some security scanners, fight off some guards, and this coked out dude on a bike, and eventually make it to Jessie's parents' house, where I steal her dad's ID card in order for Jessie to use it to infiltrate the Shinra warehouse, while we cause a distraction out in front of the warehouse, which is where we draw the attention of the crackhead on the bike again and have a quick boss fight with him, then get surrounded by more Shinra goons, who are then taken out by our fellow eco-terrorists, which allows us to make our escape, and afterwards, Fine Shit tells this to Cloud.
Okay, I get it. Mind letting me breathe?
Depends. Mind coming over tomorrow night? My roommates should all be out for a while.
And Cloud's bitch ass says this.
Are you seriously that desperate? Just let go already.
Like, bro, what the fuck is you doing? The next day, we're woken up by Tifa because we're being attacked by flying seamen, which causes Jessie to get hurt. So we have to take her spot on the mission to blow up another reactor. However, plans don't go according to plan, as we are attacked on the train and have to jump out that hoe. We then go through this maintenance level where those funks who were giving me trouble are, though we don't stay there for long, and eventually make it into the reactor, where we get a long monologue from President Shinra and his lead gooner. Now, they go on about how they're going to frame us as terrorists that are working for a foreign nation called Wutai. Once they finally stop yapping though, we fight off a robot, things go boom boom, causing us to fall off the platform and have a vision of a gorgeous man again. His name is Sephiroth, by the way. I don't know if I said that before, but yep. Anyways, we were woken up by baddie number 3, the flower girl from before. Her name is Aerith, and as we're talking, this no chest haired, red-headed bitch comes in looking for a fight. Aerith then tells us if we become her bodyguard, she'll reward us with a date with her. We then kick Reno's ass, but before we can deliver the finishing blow, the seaman throws us into another room. So we decide it's probably best to just get the hell out of there. Oh, and I should probably point out, these seamen seem to be protecting us and others of importance from dying. So, yeah. Now this is the point when we avoid taking the main road to town because of another Shinra goon named Rude is taking that road to town, which I'm not going to rant about because I already did earlier in the video. While in town, we help some kids, we get another vision of Sephiroth, then we get into a fight with Baldi, and then make our way to Aerith's house, where we meet her mom, who is not quite happy about me being with her. So she tells us to leave in the morning and never to speak to Aerith again. So we do. However, Aerith finds us leaving town and accompanies us. We then go through some tunnels where the robot arms are. Yet again, I'm not gonna rant about this section because I already did earlier in the video. We finally make it out when we suddenly see Tifa rolling out through the main gate in a carriage on her way to Wall Market in order to get some information out of Don Corneo. Aerith then convinces us that the Don is way too dangerous and we need to go and save Tifa. Now, how do we save Tifa, you ask? It's actually quite simple. We dress up like a woman in order to infiltrate Corneo's wife competition thing, which we end up winning, by the way, by Shane kinking him. Once we get him alone in his room, we interrogate him and he tells us that Shinra plans on dropping the plate above Sector 7 onto Sector 7, killing thousands. However, as we're about to leave, the Dawn opens the trap door under our feet, causing us to fall in the sewers, and we have to fight off this big ass toad. We then make our way out of the sewers and then end up going through a haunted rail yard where we are sidetracked and forced to deal with some ghosts. And look, it is at this point where I'm starting to become bored and worse, uninvested in the story in both my first and second playthrough. As a matter of fact, I think this is where I discovered I could put the cutscenes in 2x speed. And from here on out, I did. And one more thing before I move on, why the fuck is this section a main quest instead of a side mission? The whole plot of this mission is so far detached from the actual main quest, you could remove this section and the story wouldn't change. Like, I don't understand why we are taking the time to solve this haunted mystery when our characters are quite literally in a rush to make it to Sector 7 to stop Shinra from dropping the plate. Like, what? We arrive to Sector 7 and see our friends Barret, Jesse, Wedge, and Biggs fighting off Shinra at the main pillar. However, as we arrive to the pillar, we see Wedge fall off the pillar. Luckily though, he is able to save himself with a grappling hook. Tifa and Aerith then decide to stay on the ground to look after Wedge, while Cloud goes up and helps the others. Though he is too late to save Biggs, it's at this point when Tifa entrusts Aerith to go save Barrett's daughter, Marlene. Though once she does, they are both captured by Shinra. Cutting back to Tifa, she manages to catch up with Cloud, and they both end up witnessing Jessie sacrifice herself. RIP Fine Shit number 1. We then catch up with Barret and run fades with both Reno and Rude, and shockingly lose because the floating seaman stops us from getting to Rude, allowing him to detach the pillar from the plate, causing it to go boom boom and collapse. Our heroes take a conveniently placed zipline to safety, and not gonna lie, when I first saw this cutscene and I saw Cait Sith, I had the same reaction as this.
He's got the caps, of course. He's got his straight caps. Oh my god, that's how they're gonna end him? Wowzer. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
The gang then arrives at Aerith's house looking for Marlene, and this is where it's revealed that Aerith is an ancient, which are the original beings of this planet before humans, and Shinra believes that they can use Aerith to lead them to the Promised Land, a land filled with Mako, in order to get their grubby little hands all over it. Armed with this information, we vow to save Aerith and make our way to Corneo for information on how to get topside. Now, I'll admit, it's at this point where I've lost complete interest in the story, second time around, and I've begun to skip all the cutscenes. Right, once we arrive to Wall Market, we learn that Corneo has gone into hiding because Shinra is hunting him for revealing their plans to us. So in order to find him, we talk to this man named Leslie, who takes us to the sewers to show us Corneo's little hidey hole. Now, the reason why Leslie is being so helpful is because Corneo is the reason why his fiance disappeared, and Leslie wants to ice him, basically. Sadly though, once Leslie does confront him, he is disarmed, forcing us to step in and kick Corneo's ass, though he summons his pet and escapes. We are able to defeat his pet and make our way out of the surface, and are given grappling hooks by Leslie, which we use to scale our way up to Shinra HQ. Now on our way up, we fight a giant robot and nearly escape from death. Once at the upper level, we infiltrate Shinra HQ through the garage and proceed to scale up the building with aid from the mayor, who is also a double agent for us. Once at the 63rd floor, we follow a stereotypical evil scientist named Hojo to his lab. Hojo then tells Cloud that he isn't a soldier, and then is immediately taken away by the seaman. We free Aerith and a dog, and Cloud begins to have another hallucination of this mummy lady in a test tube, and soon passes out. Cloud then wakes up in Aerith's old room, where she gives us a lore dump and is immediately interrupted by the seaman circling her. The dog, Red 13, then explains what the seamen actually are. They're called Whispers, and essentially they ensure that destiny goes on as it's supposed to. We then make our way to the 68th floor and into what I dub the Genova room. You see, the mummy we saw in the test tube is actually Sephiroth's mother, and she is located here, which explains why Sephiroth magically appears right in front of us and sends us plummeting down. Now, I don't know why, but this whole section in the Jenova room sucks. Don't ask me to explain. I genuinely don't know. It just sucks. I don't know why it does, but it just does. We eventually make our way to the president's office, where we see a shattered window. Out of curiosity, we go outside on the balcony and see the president hanging off the building. Barrett, for whatever reason, decides to save the president and tells him to tell the people that he was the one behind the plate dropping and tell the people how they are killing the planet. However, the president instead, shockingly, pulls out a gun on him. Sephiroth then appears and unalives the president, and Barrett's dumbass then tries to attack him for unaliving the president and is unalived for it. However, this was just a fake out because the seaman resurrects him and Sephiroth shapeshifts and we have a boss fight. Once Sephiroth is defeated, we then go outside and have another boss fight. This time it's with the president's son. Now I'll admit, I'm not a big fan of this fight because I don't know how to fight him. The only reason I was able to beat him was because of Limit Break and because of the a spell and or counter stance ability. After the fight, we then see Wedge get thrown out the window by the seaman to his supposed death. Our gang then rides out of Shinra HQ onto the highway where we have some cool fights and come up on a portal that takes us to our final fight with Sephiroth and Fate. Once we defeat Sephiroth, he vanishes and our characters vow to stop him no matter what. And look, I'm not about to sit here and pretend like I know what just happened in all of these cutscenes, so I'm not even gonna address them. What I will address though is during the cutscene on the bridge, there's a random Zack scene interjected. For whatever reason, watching this cutscene for the first time feels weird because there's a whole ass reveal, and it's like the developers expect you to know who he is, which left me confused. But after playing Rebirth and watching the cutscenes of Crisis Core, his scenes in this chapter are less confusing. But what isn't less confusing though is the last Zack cutscene. I know it's an alternate timeline, but it's not the same one from Rebirth, because the one in Rebirth told a completely different version of events. So if they are different, then what happened to this version? Now, the story first time around, like in the beginning, it hooked me. Then as the story went on, it started to lose me and lose me. And then it grabbed my attention. It grabbed my attention again. Then as it went on, it went lost me, completely lost. And the only reason why I was even continuing the game was because, for whatever reason, I thought it was this game that you could romance Aerith or Tifa, and it never happened. And I'll admit, I was disappointed, right? And combining my disappointment in the story and my frustrations when it came to the gameplay, because I remember my first time around, I was horrible in the gameplay wise. So like, combine those two things, and my disdain for this game was immense, right? Like, my first playthrough, I probably would have rated this game like a 5 out of 10, honest to God. My second time around, I did enjoy the game. I had a blast gameplay wise. Story wise, it was the same thing. Hooked in the beginning, lost me, got invested, and then lost me completely. Didn't care for the story, skipped every cutscene. I don't know what it is about this game that simply I just couldn't get invested in the story. Genuinely, I don't know what it is.